I grew up in the United States in the South in Alabama, the major city Birmingham, and I grew up with a rural urban upbringing with a very fundamentalist Christian understanding. And so it was out of that upbringing that I was able to thrive academically and went on to college and became a science major and eventually was accepted to medical school and chose gynecology and obstetrics as my career. In the course of maintaining my religious understanding, it put me in a place where I had to process what it meant to be a woman's health provider and to understand the bigger questions of reproduction, namely abortion. And so initially, after becoming a gynae and obstetrician, I was sympathetic to the fact that women had unplanned, unwanted pregnancies, but was unable to provide that care because I was morally convicted about what it meant to provide the care. I never questioned a woman's right to do so. And so for the first 12 years of my practice, I did not provide abortion care. And it was through a interaction with the sermon by Dr. Martin Luther King, where he uses the story of the Good Samaritan to tell what made the Good Samaritan good. And he describes someone who stopped to help someone in distress after everyone else passed that person by. And Dr. King said what made that person good was his ability to reverse the question of concern. And whereas everyone else passed by and didn't help, that person stopped to help because he asked, what will happen to this person if I don't stop to help? And that resonated with me deeply as someone providing abortion care, as someone taking care of women who needed abortion care. And so I became morally convinced that it was not a conflict of my Christian values to provide abortion care, and in fact it became unethical to me not to do so. Well, as someone who's providing abortions exclusively, when I'm in the clinic setting, most of what I do has to do with meeting the regulations associated with abortion care. So I'm required to secure consent and have a very explicit conversation with women, oftentimes required to provide them with medically inaccurate information, like being required to tell them that abortion increases your risk for breast cancer. So I have to tell them that by law, and then I have to medically interpret that for them in my best medical opinion, that there's nothing about abortion that increases your risk. So after we figure out a woman's gestational age and her health background to make sure that there are no risks to her having an abortion in that setting, we apprise her of all of her options. Once she's counseled in the state of Alabama, there's now a 48-hour waiting period. So after we counsel her, she now has to wait 48 hours before she can actually have the abortion. So on any given day, I assess women and we counsel them so that they can become eligible for the abortion. And then the women who've already waited their 48 hours will then have their abortion on that day. So again, most of the cases we do are first trimester abortions, which means that they are in the first 14 weeks of the first trimester. And those cases are very much amenable to local anesthetic and a suction extraction of the pregnancy. And for the ones who are a bit farther along, it's usually a longer process to prepare the cervix or an overnight process. And so most of my day is spent either counseling women and apprising them of their options or providing the service that they are seeking, to include non-surgical abortion in the form of medication abortion. My baseline is exasperation that we are politicizing something as essential as reproductive health care and abortion for women, and that it is vulnerable each political cycle is frustrating to me. And that it is vulnerable each political cycle means that in any given time, my work doesn't change. My embrace of the morality and of the entitlement of women to have abortion means that as long as I do this work, I will be committed to advocating for these services, providing these services. And so there's never been a time when women have not had to contest for their basic reproductive and human rights. That's a function of the prevalence of patriarchy around the world, no matter what political system you're talking about. And so my specific task, given that I was born in the United States at a time where women's reproductive rights are contested, my basic task is to stay true to the work of working to secure those rights and then providing those services once we secure the right for them to be available.